Hello friends, neighbors, John your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome to the Whiskey Nook down here in the basement. It's Saturday. I've been doing a few chores and whatnot. Didn't quite get them done, but it was time to stop and try to unwind a bit, pour a whiskey, and talk with you guys. So today we're going to talk about a Speyside Scotch. I know I've been shooting a lot of Scotch, but we're heading into Robbie Burns days, so I thought let's stay with Scotch and get into some more of the Canadians and bourbons that I have ready maybe after that break. So we're going to look at Glen Grant 12-year-old. It's a Speyside Scotch. We'll nose it, we'll sip, we'll talk about it. So if you have really any Scotch, any Speyside Scotch, why don't you pour something and sip along and see how it contrasts. Or if you have Glen Grant 12, why don't you pour it along?
3, 4.
Thanks for staying with me through the opener. You know, when I've been doing chores, I kind of rush into sitting down with you. So hopefully now I'll settle in and we'll just talk whiskey and it'll be a little bit more meaningful for you guys. So this, as I said in the opener, is Glen Grant 12-year-old. Glen Grant, I believe, at least, you know, when I Google around or I've watched a few YouTube videos, is fairly famous for its lighter spirit. And they talk about how they get their lighter spirit by having very tall stills, and then they use a you call it a purifier, but it's like a water cooling jacket around the line arm that lets the heavy spirit condense quickly and fall back down, and the light spirit continue on. So it has the effect, as I'm told. I'd love to try my hand at distilling one day, but that of lightening the spirit and letting the lighter nature, cleaner, smaller cut type spirit carry on. And they do it in both their distillations. Lots of distilleries do it in one, but they do it in both. So that's very unique, I'm told, to Glen Grant. And so they say it creates a light spirit. Now this 12-year-old is bottled at 43%. Sadly, I can find no information whatsoever on whether it's colored or chill filtered. At 43, and because they don't say it, you know, it's probably both, which is unfortunate. But we can still see, you know, what the Scotch tells us, what it tastes like, what we get, and see if we enjoy it. So as I tried to mumble through the opener, if you have any Scotch, especially a Speyside, pour along and see if this contrasts with the Scotch that you have, or if it has some similar notes. So Glen Grant 12. This nose to me soft, sweet, honey, a little bit of lemon, but a sweet fruit. So white grape or light peach, or, you know, peach to me can be really sweet, so it's not quite there. Apricot. Yeah, pear, maybe pear. It's not as crisp as, you know, like a green apple. It's not as almost mealy as a red juicy apple. So it's light, sweet, fairly fruity. Yeah, actually, I find the nose very gentle, welcoming, pretty interesting. See how it tastes. Sláinte. Again, a sweet light fruit, but add, as you would hope in a Scotch, some malt character. Light malt, so a really light crust, but just a little bit. There's a bit of spicing or bite, but it's not in the usual place. It's not the edges of my tongue or the back of my throat. It actually kind of bites on my palate, which is a little bit unusual for me. You know, that must have been just, you know, haven't really had whiskey today because it's cleared out. Light toffee or caramel, you know, still in the palate, not the nose. Something that's a bit like a crust, a graham crust. No, not so much graham, but a crust from a piece of pie or that kind of thing. Very light, very fruity, lots of honey, little bit of citrus, but just light. Doesn't bite, doesn't tart, doesn't pull your mouth together. Just a little bit of light rind. Wow, this is actually quite nice, and it's really fairly gentle for me. Like, it is pleasant, easy sipping. It would be the kind of Scotch that I think would appeal broadly. Almost pulls toward that really light Irish, not quite, because it's still got a little more malt going on. Very pleasant, and actually, I haven't had enough Glen Grant. I'll just share that right now, and this bottle is appealing to me. Really quite nice. It kind of strikes me as a little bit maltier Glenfiddich. Not the same kind of apple I get in Glenfiddich. A little bit fruitier Glenmorangie. I don't know how to. I really quite like it. This might become kind of a go-to 12. No, I'm not that far into it, but I have to say I'm really enjoying it, and very affordable. I know the knocks would be that it's probably chill filtered and probably colored, and it's only 43 instead of 46%, but it's tasty. And there is enough flavor in here to play around. Now, I was watching a Glen Grant 22-year-old with Renee from Salig. Boy, that guy knows his whiskey. And he was, sharing some of that, the line arm water cooling. But then he was going on to say, because of the light nature, that they tend to use only refill, not a lot of first fill ex-bourbon. And usually I love that fresh, expressive first fill. But his comments were, because the spirit is so light, that influence might crush the spirit, which is interesting. And another reminder to all of us that not every whiskey should be, also a little bit virgin oak, or also like some of those flavors can be aggressive depending on how the distillate has been produced. Because I tend to like a little bit of virgin oak somewhere. Or if it's sherry, very fresh sherry. Or if it's bourbon, lots of first fill express. I really love those flavors. But I like this Scotch. Yes, it's gentle, but it's quite good. And we'll see how the bottle progresses. But I enjoy it, and I easily give it 3 3/4, which is pretty good for an entrance Scotch. Let's see, I didn't have a lot of 12-year-olds open. But I have kind of the last of this Enoch 12 Highland. It's only 40%. And honestly, if I was judging by color, I'd say, probably this is natural color only because it's really a light straw. But let's see how it compares. Okay, much less fruit. It's actually a stronger nose than this. This is very light. Just a little bit of honey, a little bit of some fruit. This is maltier, thicker, even though it's 40%. I'm really liking Enoch too. This is a little more coating, a little more butter, much stronger malt character, like little oat, barley. How do I describe that? That malt. So when I talk about crust, this really has that graham cracker, cream of wheat type malt going on. Higher, sweeter, light fruit. Gentler across the palate. Now I'm getting little highlights of a little bit of lemon citrus. I enjoy both. It's surprising to me how a 40% in this context is probably a stronger flavor profile but it is a little thicker, a little maltier than the Glen Grant. But that's the strength of the Glen Grant. I would suggest that it's light and really quite pleasant. So, thanks for joining me down here. I hope you've had a decent week, that you've had a chance to maybe unwind or get a couple of chores done. As I said, I started a chore, but I'm not quite done. So maybe we'll get it done tomorrow. Thanks again for joining me. Have a great week.